Hi everybody, it's Thomas here from Thomas Fitzgerald Photography, and today in this video I'm going to do something a little different. So basically the other day I was out in the city in Dublin and I was having a cup of coffee and I was in this nice kind of elevated coffee shop that kind of looked down over Dublin Stephen's Green and the new tram lines, and I thought this might make a nice place for a time-lapse. And so I had my little Canon G7X with me, which has a nice handy little time-lapse feature in it. And so I shot this, I'll just play this now. I shot this quick time-lapse. So what I wanted to do with this was basically turn this into one of those faux tilt-shift effect type things. And so in this video I'm going to show you how to do that. Now it's really straightforward, but I'm going to be using After Effects, and I know probably most of the people watching this channel don't use After Effects on a regular basis. But it's really not difficult at all what I'm going to do. So I'm going to talk you through it step by step. And if you are a Creative Cloud member, you probably already have After Effects, even if you haven't used it. Or not. But anyway, I thought you might find this interesting, so I'm just going to basically talk you through the process. So first of all, let me just switch over to After Effects. I'm going to close this here in QuickTime Player. So I have After Effects open here and I have imported the sequence in. So I will start by making a new composition. So basically what I just did there, by dragging that down onto the new composition window, it adds the clip to the composition and sets all the settings the way you want it. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is to create a tilt-shift effect. You're basically simulating camera blur on top and bottom. So in order to do that, we need a mask, which kind of basically tells it where to blur it. So for that, there's lots of different ways you could do it, but I'm going to do a really simple way. So I'm going to start by creating a new solid, and I want this to be black. Okay, and I'm going to create another new solid, and I want this to be white. Okay, so next I am going to add a mask to this, so just a normal rectangular mask. And in the mask controls, I'm going to press F on the keyboard to bring up the feather tool, and I'm just going to feather this. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to pre-compose these, so that basically means make the two of these into one composition. So on the Mac, that's Command-Shift-C, and I'm going to call this mask. Okay, so now I want to turn this layer off because I don't need this at the moment. And then the next thing I'm going to do is on this channel, on this effect, I am going to go, I want blur and sharpen, camera lens blur. Okay, so this will basically blur everything. And then over here we have blur map. So I want to select the mask layer for this. Okay, and that's inverted at the moment, so I'm just going to invert that. Okay, so there you have it, straight up. That's how we create the blur effect. Now there's a bit more we need to do this, due to this, which I'm going to show you now. So the first thing I want to do is I'm actually going to turn this off, because one of the things I noticed is there's actually a little amount of movement in this. So when I was in the cafe having some coffee, I didn't actually have my GorillaPod with me, so I just used my bag to stabilize it. And it's a little shaky in spots, so what we're going to do is we're going to stabilize this footage. And so let me just go back to the start. And I'm going to use this as the kind of stabilizing point. So for this, we go to Window, and we want the tracker. Okay, so my After Effects is all over the place at the minute, so I'm just going to move this up here. Okay, we want the tracking controls, and we want to stabilize motion. And we only need one track point for this, so I'm going to use this to track. So basically the way the tracker works is the inner box is kind of the pattern it's going to scan for, and the outer box is where it's going to scan. And there's not that much movement in this, so hopefully this shouldn't be too difficult. So we just set that analyzing. Now hopefully, because there's a few things crossing that, so hopefully it should be okay. The tracker in After Effects is generally fairly good. Okay, so I'm going to hit apply. Okay, and now we just zoom back out here. And bring this back down. My window's kind of gone all over the place on me. So, let me just scroll through this. I'm just going to do a RAM preview and hopefully this is okay. Okay, so that seems fine. So now we can go back to our effects controls and we can turn the camera lens blur back on. There's one other thing I'm going to do. Because I've tracked that, I should actually really have this on a separate layer because you're actually moving the camera lens blur with it. To be honest, it won't make any difference because the movement is so little, but just for the sake of doing this properly, I'm going to do it a little differently. So I'm going to add an adjustment layer and then I'm going to copy this. Well, I'm going to cut it, so Command X, and then I'm going to paste it on the adjustment layer. So the difference that makes is basically applies to whatever's below it, but any movement on this won't be taken into account. So if I, the other thing I'm going to do, because there's a slight bit of movement, I'm just going to scale this up ever so slightly. So just to get rid of the blacks. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm going to rename this just so that we can see it. We call this blur layer. Okay, so the other thing, if you notice with a lot of these tilt-shift effects movies, is they generally have the kind of blown out kind of highlights and a high kind of contrast, and basically it's a grade to make it look a certain way. So we're going to do that. We're going to add a new adjustment layer. So, and this one we want color correction and curves. So we're just going to do something like this. I'll just bring this down ever so slightly. Okay. And then I'm going to go color correction and then hue saturation. And I'm going to bring the master saturation up. So you can see that looks kind of much more like the traditional kind of tilt-shifty type effect. So you get the kind of miniature look going on. And you can see the sun was kind of coming in and out here the whole time as well. So, okay, so I'm happy with that. So there's one more thing I can do. But let me just RAM preview this first, just so to give you an idea. Okay, so it's only doing a small section of it because I have the recording software and everything else running here in the background, so that's part of the problem. But anyway, you can see what's going on. So the next thing I want to try and do is, it would be nice if I could get this to loop. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to name this composition and I'm going to call it time-lapse. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this. Well, actually, no, I'm going to drop this into a new composition. Okay, so I want the loop point to be after this last tram has gone back out. So I'm going to start looping it there. So I want to add a marker to this. This will make sense in a minute. And then I'm going to duplicate this layer and I'll bring this back to here. Okay, and then I want to fade this layer in at this point. And bring that down to 0. So, I mean, it's not going to be a perfect loop, but... So what I need to do now is, I want to count the number of frames here, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 7 frames in, so I need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I hit B key, so that should start my loop there. And it should end on the same point. If you can watch through the preview, you can see that it is looping. I mean, it's not a perfect loop, but it's just more if I wanted to use this on Instagram or something like that, it would just continue to loop. Okay, so that's how you do that. So the last thing we need to do is just render this out. So Control M, best settings, and we will set it. We want a H.264 version, and hit render. I could have done more to this too. I could have done things like I could add grain and stuff to it, make it look kind of filmy, and I could apply maybe a LUT or something just to kind of enhance it a bit further. But I just thought I'd take the easy way for the moment, just to kind of show you the results. Okay, so now if I go back to the Finder, I'm going to hit loop here. So there you can see. It's not perfect. I probably should have done a 2-point track when I was stabilizing it. So what that means is it would have stabilized rotation and stuff as well. Or I could have used the warp stabilizer, but I find a point stabilizer is probably better for something like this. But it's actually fine. There's a little slight bit of rotation going on, but you can't really notice it. So there you have it. That's how we create a faux tilt-shift effect in After Effects. I hope you found this interesting and not too boring. And if you like it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you in the next video. Okay, thanks for watching.